Hi, this is John Sanpetro, and I got a great follow-up question to my recent video on why you should raise your prices. And the question goes like this. Dear John, thanks for the video on why we should raise our prices. Would you mind sharing how exactly we figure out that price? Also, how do product sales factor into setting our price? Okay, there actually is a formula that you can follow in terms of setting your price for a class, and I'm going to give it to you step by step right now. The first step is to figure out the total number of hours that you're spending on the class. Okay, so that includes planning the class, prepping for the class. It includes all of the marketing that you do surrounding the class, all of the time that you spend on the marketing. It includes the setup of the class and the breaking down afterward. It includes traveling to and from if that's a part of it. And of course, it includes the actual class itself. So add up the total number of hours that you're spending on this class. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to multiply that number of hours by your hourly wage. Now, at this point, you may be saying, I don't have an hourly wage. Well, you really do. And I personally believe that all of you should be paying yourselves at least $20 an hour. You guys are skilled craftspeople, you're skilled artisans, and $20 an hour really is the minimum that you all should be making for your time. So you should be paying yourself at least $20 an hour. That's going to give you a particular number, right? Number of hours times your hourly wage, and then you're going to add that number to the total dollar amount that you spent on the class. And so that includes product that you had to purchase, if the marketing cost you any money, if you had to rent a room for the class, if you're providing any snacks or refreshments, and of course any travel costs to and from. What that's going to give you is the amount of money, when you add those two numbers together, the amount of money you have to make to both cover your costs, which is important, and get paid, which is even more important. You divide this number by the number of attendees you expect will come, and that equals how much you charge per person. So let's diagram this out, okay? Step one, number of hours spent times your hourly wage. Step two, the amount of money spent on the class itself. You add that to the first number. That equals how much you need to get paid. Step three, divide that by the number of projected attendees, and that equals how much you have to charge per person for that class. Pretty simple, right? Now, there is a step four. And step four actually is the overriding factor in terms of all of this. Step four is the inherent value of the class, of the service that you're providing. What is it really worth? And there are lots of ways to figure out what it's really worth. And if you don't know, ask me. Send me an email at john@stampingismybusiness.com, and I'll be more than happy to tell you what I think it's worth. But it's important to remember that, again, the inherent value is what overrides everything, because if the class is worth more than your get paid number, you need to charge what it's worth, not just enough to get paid. What's going to happen is you're going to make more money, but there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you constructed a good class. You're a good business person. You were able to construct a class that has a high inherent value but low expenses. That's great. And the reward is more profit. So don't beat yourself up over that. Congratulate yourself for it. Now, if the class is worth less, if the inherent value is less than you need to meet your get paid number, you do not hold that class. You simply revise that class until you can bring the numbers in line. You do not hold a class where the inherent value is less than what you need to get paid, because the only way you're going to hold that class and get anybody to come is if you actually charge less, which means you're going to actually lose money on the class. Now, what about product sales? How do they factor into the mix? Well, the truth is they don't. They really don't. You make your money on classes based on the class fee. You make your product sales on workshops and phone calls, through workshops and phone calls. You do not really do classes with an eye towards selling product at the end of the class. And in fact, if you're selling an abundance of product after a class, what it really means is you're not charging enough for that class. Remember the difference between sales and profit. This is a really important thing. They're not the same. And you actually need a lot more product sales to make the same amount of profit as you would if you just raised your price. For example, here, raising your class fee by $10 will yield you the same amount of additional profit per person as generating $30 to $40 per person in product sales. So really, when you look at those two things, is it easier to raise your price by $10 to make that same amount of money, or is it easier to get an extra $30 to $40 per person in product sales? Obviously, raising your class fee. Again, you make your profit on class fees. You make your product sales on workshops and phone calls. There's no shortcut to that. You also shouldn't be doing classes that include purchasing catalog product, because here's what happens. You add the catalog product to the class, and then what you end up doing is you end up dropping your class fee, what you would normally charge. So the only time you can do a class that includes the purchase of catalog product is if you're going to pass 100% of the product cost to the customer, and you're not going to drop the class price at all. In other words, if you're doing a $25 class, and by the way, $25 really is the minimum dollar amount you should be doing for any class, honestly. But if you're doing something, if you're doing a $25 class normally, and then you decide to add a $15 product, well, now you have to charge $40 for that class. Now look, if you're watching this video and you're thinking about why this isn't going to work for you, then you're absolutely right. This will not work for you. If you're convincing yourself why I'm wrong for you, then I'm wrong. Because if you don't believe in charging that price, if you don't believe you're worth it, if you don't believe that people will pay you, then they won't. You have to believe in the business you can create in order to create it. And look, if you have more questions like this, or if you feel like you need to plug yourself into a community of like-minded, supportive stamping business owners, people who are profit-focused and who really believe in their price points, I would really encourage you to take a look at the Business Stampers Coaching Group. You can go to my website, www.stampingismybusiness.com, for more information. You could take a 10-day trial for just $1 and really plug in and see what it's all about. And there are a lot more videos like this that answer a lot of these questions, and we put new ones up every week. And of course, if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to email me at john@stampingismybusiness.com.